As we learn to set aside the stuff of life, and we learn to say, what's really happening here? We realize that everything, as the Course in Miracles puts it, everything is love or a cry for love, a call for love. So what would you give everything? If it's love being expressed, respond with love. But if it's a call for love or a cry for love, what to give it? The best thing, the only thing really, but the best thing is more love. Now, that's beautiful and kind of poetic, but it's not easy. When people are annoying, you don't go, what this person needs is love. There's all kinds of other options we can think of. What they need? But to the moon! Those of you who are old enough to remember that show, right? One of these days, Alice. And that's the human reaction. The human reaction is, I don't like what I'm experiencing, I don't like what I'm saying, I don't like what I'm hearing. I must retaliate. Either I defend or retaliate. You can broaden that into fight, flight, freeze. But none of those are God. So how does God respond? The best answer is, I don't know, but I'm willing to find out. Because as soon as we go, how would God respond? And we start thinking about it, we're sort of not as open to receiving the guidance on how to do it. So even though it seems logical or sensible or rational to figure out how to respond, and I'm not saying there's a problem with that, I'm saying let's learn to start with I don't know, but I'm willing to find out. I don't know. This person's crying out. This person's in deep pain. I mean, sometimes literally and emotionally in pain. What can I do for them? Well, I don't know. It's none of my business. We have to learn to say, what can I do? And the head will go, it's none of my business. And then just say, am I not my brother's keeper? I'm not responsible for them, but I am responsible with them. There's always something to consider doing. At the very least, prayer. Quiet, silent prayer. You could be sitting a mile away. You can be sitting 10 feet away. And nothing can stop us from saying, my brother, sister, whatever you're going through, just know I love you. I am standing on behalf of God and all your brothers and sisters, and I'm sending you love. So sorry that you're going through whatever it is, but know that on some level, all is well. Sending that beautiful reassurance, and they can feel it on some level. Do you always see somebody 10 feet away or a mile away or going, whoa, I done seen the light. I'm healed, No, but if you sit there watching for that with your little scrutinizing, telescope, are they healed yet? That's just our ego getting involved again. Send it and be done. Send it and be done. Knowing that on some level all is well. I've been teaching a lot of years, and I just do my best I don't take these things for granted. I never just go, well, after 35 years, now I should, I should this and should that. I don't pay attention to that. I still call upon God. Help me and guide me. It's better to say I don't know, because in that you can now receive anything and everything you need. If you try to tell God in some way, even without words, if you think you have half of anything covered, you've limited how much you can be filled. So it's kind of better just to, all right, I'm good, I'm here, I'm open, just whatever I need to know. And then, wow, sky's the limit. I've talked about many, many different topics in my life, but yet there's always a theme, and that's putting God first. And I'm glad, because that's what happens in my self-talk, in my day-to-day talk when I'm doing things. It's not that I'm walking around just always calmly in a meditative state. It's whatever I'm doing. I tend to feel as though I'm in communion of some kind. That doesn't mean it's always just calm and peaceful. It could be a dialogue. It could be about self-issues. It could be about life, the world. It could be asking for suggestions on what to talk about. It's just whatever. It's kind of just this nice spiritual friend that we have in God to call upon. But one of the common things I have talked about, somewhat consistently, is mythology. Now, I don't mean I'm going to tell you a story about, Athena and so forth. We've talked about archetypes like that before. What I'm saying is this. In God, there is no mythology. There's no metaphor. There's no myth. There's no once upon a time. There's just bliss of God. There's no contemplating what it would be like to not have God. There's no philosophy. There's no theorems to work on. It's just the bliss of God. So in God, there's no mythology. But once the children of God thought that they might separate, mythology began. And there's really two sides of mythology. The mythology of us separating from God and the mythology of us coming home. But the great minds like Joseph Campbell have tried to explain, and Carl Jung too, the mind thinks archetypally. The mind thinks metaphorically, especially in the higher mind. What I'm saying in that is that we as beings, once we thought we separated, we have kind of two sides. The going to sleep and the waking up. And every movie and every song and every thought we have is reflecting one of those two things. When you think a thought like, God, they're so much younger looking than me. You're dreaming, you're thinking a thought of what it's like to go to sleep and imagine that some can be better than others. When you start to look at others and go, oh, I really love the beauty in that person. That's beautiful. You're dreaming or thinking of waking up. You see what I'm saying? You could say negatives are the dream of separating and positives are the dream or the mythology of waking up. You could summarize it generally like that. But clearly our version of the positives and negatives aren't really that cut and dry. Because we could have what we think are positives and they can be completely ego-based. You know, I can look in the mirror, mirror, mirror on the wall, tell me I'm the most amazing of all. And just because that's a positive doesn't mean it's part of the mythology of waking up. That's obviously kind of ego-based. So here's what we've got. We've got this access the higher mind. When Jesus talked, he said life is like, he was using metaphors and what they call parables. Ancient civilizations and still some cultures, indigenous people, they still use parables and metaphors. Because, well, for several reasons, but in part because the metaphors reached your higher mind, broader mind, less detailed and finite, a broader open mind. But also when you use metaphors, you're telling stories where people could start imagining themselves as the characters. If I say 1 + 1 is 2, most people don't go, okay, I'm 1 and that person's 1. It's not as given a space for the imagination, which is the higher mind, which is the heart chakra. So instead they say, once upon a time there was this damsel and she's trapped in a tower and nobody could save her. And then this hero finally wakes up and says, I think I'm going to, and there's a part of us that goes, oh, I want to be that. I want to be a hero. And we get a little caught up in genders and think that males can be the hero. It's the hero in us, the hero and the heroine, saying, I'm going to ride off and save the damsel. But a great teacher might say, so children or adults, who do you think the villain is? Oh, it's the dragon. But don't we all have some of that in us? The part of us that tries to sabotage our lives. That's the part that takes the damsel and locks it in a tower somewhere and says, you can't come out. So all of a sudden we realize that's the gay part of me that wants to come out and believes it doesn't believe it can. That's the child in me that my parents always repressed. That's the part that was in Catholic school and they said, you can't. And then we start to go, oh my God, I can relate. George Lucas was reading some of Joseph Campbell's work and he went, wait a minute, these are archetypes. And so he had this brilliant idea, I'm going to do a movie. And it might even make it. And I'm going to have archetypal, good guys, bad guys. And it was brilliant because in a sense he was saying, this is in us all. The dark side, as they called it, could pull guys that were in the light and tease them with the appeal, the allure of the dark side. Can happen to anybody and does to differing degrees. So there's also the break free of it. And the people that were saying, no, we're going to stand up for the light, even if it's to death. This is the right thing to do. So he's using these archetypes. But another part of this mythology is that, remember, the mythologies are all about us falling asleep or going into a dream or worse, a nightmare of separating from God. And so in A Course in Miracles, you have these concepts shared that are sort of saying, even though you're still on earth dealing with the dream of separation from God, because if you're on earth, look, we're all sitting in separate bodies, that's not true. We're not separate anythings. But because we think we're separate bodies, the Course will say, because you think you're in the dream, we might as well teach you to have a happy dream. Not a happy dream that sort of distracts us, but a happy dream of becoming more connected to each other. One reason we come together here, like if we came here and I just kind of was hired to, crack open the dusty old Bible, John 13:3, in this kind of like depressed, you couldn't pay me enough. I'd kill myself, before I could be paid enough money to do it. It just cannot be done. For me, it cannot be done. Because there's something more happening. These kinds of gatherings, some people think a gathering is an old school thing. No, becoming one with more people can never be old school. So getting together and gathering, as long as the intention is a greater sense of remembering who we are. Some people gather and they go nowhere. But I love the fact that when we get together, for the most part, I could say, people don't come here and just go, I got to put in my hour so I don't feel guilt this week. People come here and they pretty much can expect I'm going to hear something interesting, and even better, something I can apply in my own life. And I like that. So mythology is a very beautiful way that the human mind could summarize life. And it's summarized again. The dreams of us parting ways and the dreams of us reconnecting. Reconnecting with God, but also with each other. Because we can pretend that we're connecting with God, and we can and chant and meditate and oneness and beautiful. I'm one with God and I'm just connecting with Spirit, give it all kinds of cool names. But if people afterwards, then I can tell you your prayer and meditation was bogus. You might have done the motions. I'm one with everything. But when you open your eyes and go, God, you people annoy me, it's, it's hypocrisy. And if that word's too strong, find another one that's real close. Because it's what it is. It's not true and it's not real. What you have to do is the gonging, the oming, and then say, God, it's amazing. These people still annoy me. Show me how to see them how you see them. Instead of pretending I go to spiritual God time and then time with you, which is completely different. I don't like you people. It's, God, I know that you love them, and I know that the souls in them love you, but we don't act like it. Show me how to see it all through your eyes. And you start shifting. See, but you've made it an applicable shift in consciousness. When we do things of ourselves, we always split them and they can't come together. They can't work. Happens with family members, your children and that sort of thing. Oh, money pot. I had, kids, and when they were little, man, I did all the spiritual stuff. I'm like, we're going to have a water birth. We're going to, we're going to chant in the holy books, sacred gospels and different on the mommy's tummy because the baby can feel that frequency and that vibration. I bought freaking pajamas that had chakra-colored buttons. I swear to God, chakra-colored buttons on the pajamas because this was going to be a holy being. And holy Christ, They still go, I'm glad you had a plan. I have my own, They still have their own life. They still have their own growth, their own consciousness. And in case there's any pieces of ourselves that we missed, they're going to help us out with that. And, I'm just here to help, mirror you. So, but children, they fly in under the radar, because they start off as though they're, mommy, I love daddy. It starts off that way, but at some point, they forget that contract and they get into, I'm here to teach you something. So what is the purpose to all this? Why the mythologies? It's all an illusion. But then wait, why do we do it? And somebody wrote in recently, if this is an illusion, why do we bother? Because we don't completely yet accept that it's an illusion. So you have to know the truth, which is that God is and there's only love. In the back of my mind, I must never forget that. Do my best to remember that. But out here, here's where we seem to be. And so you respect the illusion, which means you play the game. You still put fuel in your car instead of going, it's all an illusion. Go ahead and live dangerously and just put some fuel in. Just, it's not going to kill you. It's a good idea. Otherwise, you're on the side of the road going, I don't understand. Why me? And God's going, I was like, fuel up, but you didn't listen. So the Islamic saying, trust in Allah, but tie up your camel. Like, take care of the practical things. It's raining. I'll just keep the window down. Why am I getting all wet? I'm a victim. No, you could roll the windows up. Take care of the practical things in life. So why do we have tests in life in the first place? In reality, what is the purpose to life? The answer from Spirit, from God, is there is no purpose. You're dreaming. When you wake up, there'll be no value to the dream once you wake up. You'll just go, I just had the weirdest dream. How long did it last? Oh, only a split second. But you know what's weird about the dream? It felt like forever. It felt like I had to keep incarnating. And the guides, they're going to go, what the heck is incarnating? It's hard to explain because we're infinite love again now. But I had this dream that I was a little person. And I would get sick. What is sickness? I don't know how to explain it. But we would seemingly catch something from outside of ourselves. But there is no outside. I know, but it's just, let me just finish. Something outside, I would catch it. You mean catch it like catch? No. It would creep into me. And then it would creep into my organs. But you can't die. I know. That's what I said. It's weird, but this happened. I mean, it seemed to have happened. And in there, eventually, it would choke me and kill me. And I would die and I couldn't move anymore. What do you mean you couldn't move? I know. I would die. But then I would come up with an ingenious plan. Since that body doesn't work anymore, I'm going to get another one. And I'll just keep doing this lifetime after lifetime. And they're going to say, what was the purpose? There is no purpose because God created us in its image. And I know some teachers are going to tell you, no, God created us to learn. To learn what? Some people think that God actually created satellites and went, I don't know what the universe is like, so I'm going to send you all out to figure it out, come back and report to me, and then God will then grow from your information gathering. First of all, that would be a very demented God, because it would have to say, it might be really messed up out there, but I don't care, that's your problem. Go, gather information, come back and report to me who safely sits in heaven. That doesn't... That's not how it works. But some people actually buy into that because it makes more sense than the truth. It makes more sense to the logic of the ego because it just seems to work because it seems simpler, but it isn't. The simplest thing is that God actually made us in its image. God is perfect and we're perfect, but have forgotten that. That's all that happened. We forgot our perfection. How? We chose to start, when we ate from the tree of knowledge, that's the metaphor in Eden, we learned to have opinions and judgments. Once you bit into one judgment, you had to cover your tracks because of the guilt you could feel for judging. But there is no guilt because you can't really judge perfection as being imperfect. But you can think you can. You can believe that when I look at you and think you're fat, skinny, ugly, tall, short, all these things that we think about people, you can think that that's actually a naughty thought. And the one way we know that it seems naughty is that when people do it to us, we feel bad. We don't like that they said that about us. But when we react, we actually made it valid. See? So when people are hurtful, instead of the mystics, men and women who said, what? Say what you want. How does that affect me? I'm one with God. The Cathars of 1,000 years ago, man, there were points when the military would come up and say, we're going to burn you at the stake if you don't become Catholics and convert to Catholicism. They said, where's the fire? They did. They were like, where's the fire? It's over there. They just walked in. Because they were saying, there is no death. We don't actually buy it. Your thing, your threats. Now, I'm not saying that's easy. But it can be done. Okay? And we all have to learn to do it. When someone says to you, if you start practicing this spiritual stuff of yours, I'm going to leave you. Just say, would that be today? Be immune. Be immune to the threats of life. Even if an ailment grip you, do what you will. You still have no power over me. Jesus said to Pilate, you have no power other than that which I give you. And I'm allowing you to do this because I see a bigger purpose. So it's okay. When you see the bigger picture in life, it's okay because we start to kind of, laugh more. at the threats that people can dish out on us. I shared once before, and I think I just mentioned it briefly recently, but I'm going to share again. There's this mystic, a woman, in a time 2,000 years ago when it wasn't really acceptable. Her name was Thekla. But Paul was an apostle, a very strong-willed apostle, very opinionated. But still, he's supposed to be an apostle of Christ consciousness. He was still a bit too human, but he was supposed to be an apostle of Christ consciousness. And this woman sees the power of Christ. Now, remember, Christ, call it God if you want. But she sees the power of love coming through these students of this guy named Jesus and went, there's something very powerful and magical there. So she says to Paul, please baptize me. And he says, no, mainly because she's a woman. But she doesn't give up. She says, okay, well, I'm going to just follow this guy around and keep asking, I want to be baptized. He says no, and she's becoming a nuisance, but a great symbol, because eventually there's a few times she gets arrested because she's doing things that women are not supposed to do. And she keeps getting arrested. Now, when she's getting arrested, it's at the threat of death. So they go to burn her alive, and it rains and puts out the fire. Now, right there, I would just go, okay, let's just not mess with this girl. Like somebody untie her, I'll be at home. Like, can't you figure this out? Because you know what? Every lesson is learned the easy way or the hard way. Learn as quickly as you can. If you get married and then you say, God, days later, weeks later, months later, you realize this is really, really heavy stuff. I didn't know about addictions or whatever, and it becomes very hard. But you say, but my mom will never be happy if I divorce this person. And you start living under the threat of that, under you're like in a sentence now. You're not married, which is a loving partnership. You're living out a sentence. Your own head starts to tell you you cannot. Or a job. As a kid, I had the promise of jobs that made $20-something an hour when I was a kid. And nobody I knew was making that much at, 40 years ago. And the job I took was $3-something an hour, being an assistant to a teacher in an elementary school. It made no sense whatsoever to anybody. I was absolutely a failure amongst family. And, it was like, but you could have a trade. You could do that. And we can set you up over here. And big money. But I was never happy even thinking about doing the jobs that they wanted. And I thought, then I remembered the wisdom of God coming through a character, a being. It wasn't Jesus. It wasn't Buddha. It wasn't Mother Teresa. It was a beautiful Taoist priest named Kwai Chang Caine on the TV show Kung Fu. And there was Kwai Chang, a master, a Shaolin priest who has gone through all these amazing initiations. And he was cleaning out a pig stall. And they say, how is it that you look happy when we gave you the worst of all the jobs? And he said, any job is an honorable job. And I remember that. It's not what you do. Any job's an honorable job. It's the state of mind. And I loved what I was doing. So I stayed with that. The world's going to tell you all kinds of other things. So Thekla's going through this, and something in her heart is saying, I've got to maintain, I've got to pull this off. So they, try to burn her at the stake. No, it doesn't happen. The rain comes. Then there's this nobleman who tries to push himself on her and rape her. And she fights him off, but happens to tear something, a clothing or a jewelry or something, tears something, and he backs off. Now he's going to be exposed. How did that happen? He says, this woman attacked me. He's a nobleman. She's nothing. They take her, they threw her in the arena to the lions. And one of the weirdest things and coolest things of all, the lions not only didn't eat her, the mother lionesses got in front of her to protect her from the male lions. Now again, I'm going home. I don't want any part of this. When are you going to learn? There's something magical happening here. And still, another time, they get her and they throw her in the arena in a pool with sharks. To these people, this was, entertainment. So they throw her in this pool of sharks. And everybody's waiting for them to just rip her up. And instead, a flash of lightning comes from the heaven, call it lightning if you want, hits the water, kills all the sharks, but not her. And at this point, Thekla, which is you and I, just takes the water and says, hell with Paul, I'll just baptize myself. You know? Quite beautiful. Like, it's just like, you know, I'm doing it the dutiful way. I'm doing it the way I'm taught. But they don't even want me to really do it. They don't even really want me to wake up. See? There's games that go on. You know, I remember a martial arts instructor once, and he loved to control the students, and he would not give them the belts they were deserving. He was holding back. So I just recommended to some of the people that were frustrated with it, go to a different instructor. And when they did, they had already been stuck where they were for so long, refining their skills, which was good, but they were stuck for so long. When others saw their skills, they were able to be graduated a couple belts up. But it took them a while to say, you know, maybe there's another option. Maybe I don't have to do things the same way everybody else says, especially if it doesn't feel like a reflection of love. That's the main criteria, the main barometer. Like, does this feel like love? And if not, do I say, if your boss, you know, your employment, your partners don't feel like love, that you should just stand up and go, wait, I've determined this isn't love, goodbye. I don't believe that, because I think you have to ask yourself, I am in this, aren't I? This is a partnership. I think you give it a chance first and say, I have had an awakening. I'm going here now. Would you like to join me? They get an option to say yes, and if you could pull that off, and if they join you, you've pulled off one of the few things. Like, it's a huge minority to be able to do that. Family members to go, you know, yeah, I mean, that's, forget it. But, you know, your mom and dad going, you were right, honey. It's not likely. But what's going to impress them is that you get it and you live it. Even if they watch from a distance. My family was not going to be the type to like go, wow, this guy really has it, you know. Especially if they've been abusive to you, because that's only going to intensify their guilt for having been rude to you. So once people are entrenched in ego, they kind of have to stay stuck in it to confirm their validity for being rude in the first place. So some of you learn to say, I do not have to put up with this, you know, and then you've got your new age soapbox to stand on, and I'm awake, I'm now a goddess, you know, and you get a little too loud and too forceful, and that's a little of all the repression finally coming out. But that's not yet your perfect voice. It's just a louder one. And it's one that's speaking up for what's right. What's beautiful is when you're so centered and you have it so together, you may not even have to say anything. Sometimes you just go. You don't have to explain yourself. I'm not saying don't, I said you may or may not. How do you know which one? I don't know, but I'm willing to find out. Trust, guidance. What seems right? And it's what would be the greatest good. And if I felt like my telling my family I'm awake would actually cause them more hatred than good, it's maybe not in our best interest for me to announce that. Maybe I just kind of am not there so much. I've shared many times, but, you know, in my family, they weren't going to say, he's spiritual. They weren't going to say, maybe we ought to rethink this Catholic thing. They weren't going to do any of that. Instead, you know, their approach was more like, oh, Michael, hey, how's it going? Why don't you do that weird healing stuff you do on me? They weren't going to say, you know, it's made a difference. Thank you. No. And I could have said, not until you have learned to bow to me as a healer. That would have been hurtful to me and to them. I know it's tempting, but it's actually not in our best interest. So what I did is I humbly sit down and work on, you know, so-and-so's legs or so-and-so's shoulders. I wasn't getting respect, but that I knew was the best they were going to give me. They were not being hurtful, but that was the best goodness they could muster up. I don't know where your line is. You have to find your line of what you can handle. And yes, there were times when, whatever, it'd be a holiday, you know, and as much as they don't like me, there was something that they would miss if I weren't there. It's the weirdest thing. So when I would show up, I would hear, oh, look, the anointed one has arrived. Absolute rudeness. But inside, I thought it was funny. Because it's like, what made you have to even sit and think that one up? You must actually believe you see something here. You see? So you're not always going to get the happy dream that we'd like to have. We have to choose it even when other people aren't going to support us in that process. And my heart goes out to anyone because it is scary. It's funny. I can stand here and make jokes about it. But it is hard, man. When you're Thekla and you see lions descending on you, it is hard to be tied at the stake and watch the flames be lit. You don't just go, well, it doesn't matter, it's an illusion. The spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. And it's embarrassing and it's gross to be at a family and watch them all laugh at you and make jokes about you and your beliefs. It's very difficult. I understand that. All I know is that I can tell you is, this too shall pass. Your day will come. And if all you want is vindication, please see through that. Because then there's still something in the ego that wants vindicated. So just back off on that and instead accept, like Thekla, I don't need anyone to show it to me, to give it to me. I have it within myself. When we get that, it's kind of cool. All of a sudden, everything else just can relax. It's like I don't have to prove anything. I don't have to do anything. It's just everything can kind of chill. Is that making sense? So what is the purpose of life? Life's test? There is no purpose. In God, there's no purpose because we're thinking we're here and trying to do something and pull something off. But in reality, one day we'll go, we had it all along. So this will fade. The dream of having separated and then grown, the dream of separation, remember? And then past lives, and reincarnation and new bodies and new growth and new this and that. Right now, it makes sense. First we're falling and then we started taking workshops and meditating to get back. And I'm not criticizing at all those things because they're the happy dream. So God's saying, I encourage the gatherings, the prayers, the meditations, the solstices. I encourage it. Why? Because it's your dream, but it's a happy dream instead of a nightmare. There are human beings that still are dreaming a nightmare of nothing but pain and limitation, hurt, low self-worth. I need someone on earth to wake up and be the reflection of another option for them. So play the game, guys, he's saying. Play the game, it's saying. Go ahead, do your solstice, wear your crystals. Have a smile when other people don't have a smile. And they say, how do you do that? You're smiling, you're going through a divorce. Oh, it's actually very painful to go through this. But you know what? There's something in me that says, this too shall pass. You know what it feels like is almost like divorce feels like almost like a crucifixion. And you know what? But yet I hear this voice saying, Lazarus, come forth. I hear this voice saying, come out of the tomb. You see? And then I start thinking and you're telling this person, see, you're a teacher without being a teacher. You're a teacher of God, not an official teacher, and a teacher of God's more important. So you say, I see it. It's almost like a part of me has died, but I didn't die. So the part of me that dies in this divorce isn't my soul. It's a part of my human belief systems. I had low self-worth and this person was perfect. I married my low self-worth. They made it very clear on a regular basis. My old beliefs about myself. And then I woke up. And I know that I'm doing a good job at this because I don't hate them. I'm not saying I love their behaviors. I'm saying I don't hate them. So I get it. I'm able to say I get it. And I'm able to send love to those people. It started at first just kind of a gratuitous love, but it ended up being a greater sense of love. All right? And this is where all of a sudden you're teaching people. Just a few words, and you're just a bloke, You're just a person going, I don't know, it's, instead of going, well, let me tell you how to get through that divorce. You're saying, it was hard. I was struggling, I was afraid, but somehow I kept the faith. Oh, you mean just kind of faith? No, I don't mean a blind faith. I mean, I actually truly believed that there's life after death. You see, whatever the words are that you can share, they're words that you learn. So what is the purpose of life's test? Ultimately nothing, but while we're on earth, there is a purpose, which is for us to graduate and grow in conscious on a consistent level. Grow in consciousness. Once we grow enough, once we've passed all of life's tests and we've come through all the stuff and we learn to be who we really are, the next thought is, I had it all along. It actually isn't a growing. That's just on earth it looks that way. I went to kindergarten, I went to first grade, second grade, third grade. It looks like that. I grew, I learned to pray, then I learned to meditate, then I learned to chant, then I learned affirmations and decrees, I learned forgiveness, etc. But at the end of the day, really, when all is said and done, we're going to say, I had it all along. And we shift from the doing to the being. And what's the ultimate being? Being who I really am. Not who Michael really is, who I/we really are. One with God. And all the tests, they fall away and we learn to look back and go, wow, that was almost funny. How silly that we thought. People on earth are still serious though. On earth there still seems to be sexism and racism and all that. So we don't laugh it off and say it's an illusion. We hear it and we do our best to make a difference where we can and how we can. But when you do talk to people, when you do seem to correct people when they're acting hurtfully, and it is okay at times to correct people, I would err toward the sides of looking at myself before I start correcting people. I'm a spiritual teacher and you almost never hear me trying to correct people. I'll just teach. And then you dig it or you don't, it doesn't matter. I don't tell people your belief systems are wrong. Not typically. I let people be. I typically I can laugh at all the religions because they're laughable in some ways. But if your religion is important to you, I might even ask you, tell me more about it. Because I honor you, not the details. I honor you for believing in something good. So I love people, and I love people's sincere attempt to grow. But at the end of the day, all the tests and all the lessons start falling apart. They just start falling away and we realize, God, we had it all along. In the meantime, I'm going to close with this. In the meantime, when it comes to assisting others when they're having their tests, please remember to see beyond what seems to be. Someone seems to be struggling. They're angry, they're scared. Just diving in the quicksand with them isn't going to help. No, you nor them, believe it or not. But yet too much staying detached from them also doesn't help. It can make them feel more shame. So join with people, bridge with people, assist, listen, be present, supportive, offer feedback if they want it. Feedback isn't always necessary. Sometimes just holding them or being present. When it's right, then a little feedback. And when it's really right, some people not only are open to feedback, but some are willing to, have some questions or answers related to what they might learn from the experience. But I would never, if I were you, I would never jump in with that. Somebody says something horrible just happened, the most horrible thing I've ever experienced. Well, what can you learn from that? That's too cold. Start with, I'm sorry to hear that. Start with joining them at the level they're at. And only if they can go further. Don't open your mouth with feedback until that seems like the exact right thing to do. If you talk before people ask for your opinion, you're actually being selfish. And I don't care if you think you're guided to tell it to them. Chill. Is there an opening? And if there's not, you're being invasive. A Course in Miracles tells us, even God will not come into the lives of people who are afraid of it or aren't ready for it. That's how perfect the Divine Mother, Shekinah, is. How perfect. She matches exactly what we're willing to do, where we're willing to go, and then could sometimes offer, just in case you want to know there's a little more there, but I'll just wait over here. And if we say, I don't want to know about the other, okay, no problem. But she'll hint about something else, but never in a judgmental or corrective fashion. And we're supposed to be and become the embodiment of that Divine Mother. How else can we birth people into their awakening if we're not first the Divine Mother? How do you birth something from your ego self? Ego cannot create. It can only make believe. So I don't want to be involved with that. I want to help people create. I want to be like part of God. So the messages are going to be about love, not you should wear a different color. There's no shortage of humans with opinions. And I don't know of any opinion in the history of mankind that's ever been correct. Because an opinion comes from my mind, my lower mind. This is what I think. you need to hear. This is what I think should be. It's always opinions. I just let them go and say, God, you show me. And what might have been right for you might not be right for me. An opinion usually thinks this is what's right, left and right. It's just black or white. Instead, I don't know, but I'm willing to find out. And lastly, careful not to enable. At the same time, you don't just enable people with their problems. If they say, I need to hook you into my misery, and you say, well, Michael said to be real loving and patient. Okay, how far into the quicksand would you like me to go? No. You stay yourself-centered. Before I was talking about what to do and not do for them. Now I'm talking about don't forget you. You must stay sane. So only give as much financially, emotionally, energetically as you can give without losing your own sense of self, your own healthiness. And there are going to be those people that say, you're being selfish. I need you to be with me. And you say, I have been. I've been here 12 hours with you, but I have to go to work now or I'll be fired. But if you loved me, you would get fired. No, that's not true. They'll try guilt tripping you, and you have to say, this is the line I'm drawing. You may not like that, but that's up to you. You find your own line, but this is mine. Enabling is one of the trickiest things because, guys, the healers and messengers of God have to learn the difference between being a rescuer, and a miracle worker. Sometimes they look a little similar, but one of the lines that you cross becoming a rescuer is when you forget your own healthiness. And we think, there's even people that teach this, selflessness to the point of self-destruction, and we think that's actually good. And God's like, I wouldn't do that if I were you. In case, just FYI, I'm just, just putting that out there, and it isn't in our best interest. We think that if we demolish ourselves, there's a being in the sky that's going to go, wow, that was amazing that you just destroyed yourself for the sake of others. We even have this perversion of, that's what Jesus did. No. Jesus is going, since I've done that, now you don't have to. I did that for a reason, to show you the mythology of it doesn't matter. Nothing has power over you. And then you guys took it literally and started the self-flagellation and beating up on yourself, going, this makes me more of a good Christian or a good whatever the religion might be or personality might be. How we help others, first and foremost, is being a difference ourselves. Show by example. When people say, how can you teach children? Mike, how do you tell children this and that and the other? Children most learn by example. And every one of us has a child in us, therefore, we all learn best by example. So, do consider this yourselves. Do consider this, because really the question is going to become, how much am I willing to be a good example? Some of us are willing to be an example when we write books all about love. We do nothing to live it. So you're a good author. I actually am not that interested in reading that particular kind of person, their particular book. We all have things we like and don't like about our styles and personalities with each other, but I ask myself that. I ask myself, how much can I live this? And some people think I'm doing that for others. Well, Michael, you got to be yourself. You don't have to always be spiritual and all that. You got to let go. No, wait a minute. It's not just for others. It's for me. If I die tomorrow and I still can cast a shadow that's called a contrast, there's the healthy me and then there's the secret me. The more of that still exists, I'm going to work on that. You see what I'm saying by that? We all have to ask ourselves that at some point. Are you living the dream? Are you living the awakening? Or are you actually living the awakening with some shadows of the dream of sleeping still? Separation. Do look at your life and ask yourself, how many shadows do I still cast? I'm not saying they're good or bad or you should judge yourself, but how many shadows do you still cast? How much hypocrisy is left? You don't have to confess it to me or any of us. Just more time looking at self and learning to joyfully drop those. If you have to destroy that thing, then it probably is still wanting to live a little too much. So maybe look at it. But what parts are still conflicted? I want to be prosperous, but I keep struggling financially. That's a contrast. And how do I fix it? Well, I need to outside do this and that way. First, find out why both are still appealing. Well, they're not appealing. If they weren't appealing, they wouldn't be happening. And I know that's hard to hear, but that's how it is. Just consider. I want to be married, but I don't want to be married to this. I want this person, but I don't want this person. Wait, that's a contrast, which is fine. Are you willing to see that you're conflicted? Most of us don't want to see it because then we know we're going to have to do something about it. So I'd rather not think about it. So be the hero of your journey, be the hero of your mythology, and step up. Just reconsider. Maybe I can step into this and make some changes. Again, where we started, do something. Be the hero, be the master, and do something. You're a divine being who forgot who you are. You just descended into a place called Eden where we became God-like, no longer one with God, but God-like. And then we came to earth and completely forgot who we are. How do you expect to ever go to God, grow to God, ascend to God without first becoming a master again? There's a stop-off point. You start living as God on earth, which is mastery. So we have to step up. We can't just sit around listening to things that we don't apply anymore. One more book, one more workshop. Where's the application? I don't care if you've done 8,000 drum circles. If all you ever do is beat on a drum, don't even go. Just pound on your own head or something. You're not doing anything of value. Are you different? If each drum circle you come away going, while I was drumming, I let go and my mind opened. What? To the rhythm, to the music? That's still shallow. My mind opened and all of a sudden I felt the rhythm. Through the rhythm we started joining, not just musically. And then all of a sudden the drums disappeared. And I realized I'm one with all these people. And then we were done. And when I went home on my way and stopped at a store, I was still able to feel that with the people in the store. Even the annoying ones in front of me that took too long to get through the checkout. It didn't disappear. I was able to still hold that presence. And when I went to my car, there was a little ding on my new car paint job. And I wanted to have a meltdown and I almost dropped to my knees and screamed to heaven, why me? But then I remembered. Maybe that boom on the door was one more beat of a drum to teach me another lesson. Maybe all the drums, maybe all the sounds are just rhythms that are reflecting something. Harmonies and inharmonies within myself. Yeah, it's a bummer there's a dent, but that's probably in harmony somewhere. What can I learn? And then we realize, God, there's no separation. All of a sudden, my mind works like that. I look at a tree and I'm already learning. I hear a sentence and I'm already ready to teach. You see, like that. Just living in the whole presence of this. It's fantastic. Please take a few centering breaths. Let's share and integrate the message today through meditation. Setting all the stuff of life aside. In the mythologies of life, we learned to believe that once upon a time we were part of God and then separated. All the mythologies of life, which are speaking about our archetypal beliefs. So even if you're not into spirituality, the archetypal beliefs are still in the minds of everybody. It's in our cellular and genetic memories. All of us, whether we like it or not or know it or not, have a belief that we separated from the sublime at one point. When we seemingly separated, we went to a place called Eden, and that's another wonderful archetypal mythology. It's where we could live in our heart centers, but the light of God could still shine down from our upper three chakras down into our heart and still speak to us. So imagine what that felt like. The days like in the Garden of Eden story where we were told God could come and walk in the garden with us. We could feel God's presence and hear God's guidance. Just imagine how glorious that feels, because that's where we're going first on our way home, to complete oneness. How did it feel? How easy life would be to hear the guidance, to follow love. We're told anything you could possibly want in the garden is yours. Anything you could ever long for, want, desire in life is in the garden. That's a no-brainer. It's anything. With our mind, we could create a new job, a new car. I mean, metaphorically, it's anything we're looking for. How could there be sickness? All the fruits and herbs, metaphorically, the symbolically in the garden, it's all we could ever want. We just reach and take, and it's ours. And it's all beautiful. There's no competing, there's no separation between us. And then, in the garden story, we'll learn not only to hear the thought of what if we weren't in the garden? What if we were separate from God even more, and separate from love, and separate from each other? And then now, cast out of the garden, we go on to have human lives. We no longer live in our heart. We have 3 chakras below that. Chakras representing states of consciousness. You now no longer just have your heart. You have your lower mind. You have human emotions and a life that reflects separation. Each of those chakras is now reflecting the beliefs in our heart. If we get our heart together, the lower chakras will reflect goodness to us. But every wavering, doubtful, fearful thought that goes on in our heart starts manifesting in our lower mind, in our emotions, and in our life experiences. And some teachers will say, just change your vibration and you change your life. No. Change your belief. Change your belief that you're separate. Don't force it. Don't guilt others to do it. Choose it because it makes sense. Whenever we're not choosing it the easy way, our soul is going to take us there anyway through the more challenging lessons of life. So imagine you're all living in our hearts right now. We feel and see our soul's presence in our heart. We're not our root chakra. We're not our emotional and lower mind centers. We're not humans. We're borrowing human bodies to reflect our beliefs in our heart. So imagine back to our heart, and we say, you know what? I of my little self am nothing. My ego self am nothing. And I struggle and work to learn. No sense. I'm asking you, Father, Mother, God, shine your light. Let the Holy Spirit, the Divine Mother, descend from the heavens as she was made to do. Descend from the heavens and drop into my heart. Brighten my soul. Quicken me. The way a baby physically is quickened into birth, quicken my soul. Help me to feel the aliveness, the joy of being truly alive. And I now stand in my heart, knowing God is with me, and if God's with me, what could be against me? I stand in my heart and I look to my lower mind, next chakra. Be still and know I am God. Demand, learn to demand and command those little doubtful thoughts of fear, negative, low self-worth, guilt and shames. Knock it off. Tell them, what value do you have when I am one with God? Look to the emotional center or to one's emotions. Be still and know I am God. Tell them, relax. You're only reflecting fears that I once had, but I've given them up. My emotions, you can now reflect how wonderful it is to feel connected to God and each other. I am safe. There's nothing to be afraid of. There's nothing that can really harm us when we are God. You can't be alone emotionally. You tell it, instead of being alone, I'll be all one. And then to the root chakra, to the human physical self, just say, be still and know I am God. The body, you have no control over me. You're a reflection. I don't have to achieve good health or bad health because you're just a reflection. As God, the body will reflect my wholeness. Disease, be still and know I am God. Be gone. You have no place here. You have no power here. I no longer value you like I once did, as though you were something over me. conditions in life, finances, lack, limitation, be still, and know I am God. Therefore, my finances can now reflect my goodness instead of my human struggle. Your relations, everything in the world, goodbye. And recreating a new life. Choosing to be born again in the greatest sense. And close with seeing every center lit up with brilliant light. Every chakra, every organ, every gland, be still and know I am God in blazing light. And learning to believe that that's who I am and live accordingly. And close with an attitude of gratitude. Close with a belief of giving thanks, a sense of closure, that what you've just seen, heard, felt is actually true and is happening. And gradually stretch out, but taking these thoughts with you into your life. Very good. I pray it's made good sense. These amazing metaphors, parables, stories. Course in Miracles has a lot of those. Scriptures have a lot of them. The Talmud and all these wonderful sacred writings of the past, they use these beautiful stories and storytelling to illustrate concepts. Mythologies of Sophia, the wandering soul in the universe that falls and then eventually is redeemed and awakened. So all kinds of brilliant stories out there. Course in Miracles has some really strange ones, but it has some. You know, it sort of says that there, in the ego life, in the human world, there are these dogs of the ego that come to ravage you. They're hungry and they're, vicious. And it's talking about the karmas of the world. It's talking about all this stuff, low self-worth. And here they come. The dogs come to feed on you. And it says, but when you follow the ego, those are the messengers you'll attract, which are called family members and bosses and people that kind of just they just chew on you and try to tear you down, tear you up. But it says in the Course, there are different messengers that come from God. And they're the messengers of love. They're not coming to feast on you. They're coming to reflect, you're really doing great now. And how do I know that they're bringing... Sometimes they literally say, I just feel guided to tell you, you really are a great soul. That's really wonderful. Other times they say things just simple like, I just noticed you and you really seem like a happy person. So sometimes it's a message of the soul, but sometimes it's just seemingly coincidental outside messages. They say, you look so happy. That's still a reminder that I must have chosen well. Those people are bringing us messages. And the ravenous dogs, if all you do is focus on, they're here to get me and I'm going to have to fight them, that's what you keep doing with family members. You keep reverting to the pattern of fight or flight or freeze. We need something different. And if you must, close the cage so they can't get to you for a while and go and recharge. That's called divorce. That's called goodbye, mom. That's called whatever. And it's not because I'm better than them. I need some space to recharge. See? And when I can, I'll reapproach the cage and gently try to see if I can bring love to those animals that once, too ravenous, now I can say, be at peace. Be still and know I am God. Okay? All right. We're going to take a moment, take up our collection and do our closing song. If you're watching online, you can watch for the means of sending donations. We really appreciate it. Even if people just send in $5, man, it all adds up and really helps us. So do what you can to help us and the folks locally. Just be as generous as you can, guys. It's how we exist here every month. And here we have blue bags you can donate in and also wicker baskets. The wicker baskets are for any extra donations you can give, which people online can do. Right now we're needing to save up for our parking lot renovation. It's a few $1,000s. Whatever you can do to help us makes a big difference, okay? All right. If you don't know the prayer, it's on the front of your bulletin and it's posted online. Concentrate the meaning of the prayer. Don't ever just give us something. We'd rather not have it. Feel it. Really believe that when you give to us, you also receive love, support, and greater prosperity consciousness. Together, please. Divine love flowing through me blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. And so it is. Fantastic. It'll take about a minute or two to pass the baskets, and while they're doing that, you folks can share feedback, knowing, as you share what you learned or heard today, briefly, what you learned or heard today that could make a difference in your life. I'll repeat it back so the folks online can also catch on and hear some new things. And they also can post some things that were important to them. Okay? All right. Anybody want to share what they learned or heard? What did you learn or hear that made the most sense to you, that could be the most applicable?
I once again learned that you have a lot to say that's good.
Thank you. Thank you. I got a lot of good things to say. Nice. Thank you.
Actually, Michael, I think it's one of my favorite talks ever, and I've heard many of yours. Seriously, I just absolutely
Thank you. Thank you. One of the best talks I've given. Now, and that's cool. What did you gain that you can bring? Okay, I appreciate the feedback, but how are you different? Yes.
I just need to be the light in my family, in my situation in life.
I need to be the... See, he's saying that first person too. I need to be the light in my family. That's how you are a teacher. Speak it as though you believe it and it's your truth, and you could be at a supermarket and repeat it and change lives. Think about that.
There's one point during the meditation that I viewed everybody in the sanctuary as children, and then I could spread that out and see that in the world. And, it's how God sees us.
Yeah.
If that was just a little glimpse, then that's
The shift that happens in you when you start to think of people as children and children of God. Nice.
Right.
Yes.
Your opening line was, I'm willing to learn or be open to learn. I wanted to recite that one.
I don't know, but I'm willing to find out. Yeah, that works for you. That's, great. Yes.
We can consecrate ourselves. We can do the work and the things that need to be done and take it upon ourselves. We don't have to...
Like Thekla, we can consecrate ourselves. And meaning, though, in our personal lives, you don't have to wait for people's approval to say that you could do this or that. Mm-hmm. You could just believe in yourself and go there. One more.
When we think that we have the solution for someone else, instead of waiting to give our opinions, even when we're sure it's the highest and best good, it's not. It's
right.
We need to sit back and let that come to us.
Right. When you feel the compulsion to tell others what they need to hear, you're already wrong. Following compulsions is not a really good idea. No, but I really feel compelled to tell you this. Wait a minute. You're already wrong. So be careful. And as I said, having taught a long time and been a counselor for a long time, I still don't walk around telling people, excuse me, ma'am, in a supermarket, but you need to know. Whatever it is, because as soon as I speak, I'm wrong. I need to first see people as holy. And when I think something needs corrected, I should look here first. And it's tricky because I know a lot of people, students and teachers, that say, I am checking and I'm pretty good in here myself. I'm holy, but you need to change something. And it's hard to explain it to them. Listen, you're actually insane and I don't want to hear what you have to say. It's hard to convey that. There was one more hand up, so let me go back. Yes?
Along those same lines, show me God how you see it.
Show me how you would see this. Oh my, isn't that great? Listen to what I'm saying, because under it, a lot of it's going back to being the child and saying, show me God. And teachers and some people in different groups, they think it's all about becoming out and speaking and being boisterous and telling people. The teacher that does that, I don't want to hear them. Yeah. My confidence isn't coming from what I believe I need to tell you. It's the excitement that comes through of being in touch with that truth. It's beautiful. But it's not, I don't feel ever like oh, you poor people, I need to tell you something. I'm excited that we are sharing this, it's a bit different. And yes?
Keep the ball rolling.
Good. Just move, get the ball rolling. I really got to meditate someday. Well, you've been saying that for 30 years. Do something. Meditate. But meditation takes hours. No. How about this? Just watch. Inhale once, exhale once, and while you inhale, Surrender to God, and when you exhale, give thanks for that moment of surrender. And you just successfully surrendered and meditated. And it only took you one breath. That's a start. Now try 2 breaths. But you're meditating. Humans keep making excuses. Yes?
I've been attending Unity for about 6 weeks now, and I can feel it. It's made me a better person.
Nice. Nice. Good. Yes. Being here has made you a better person, a different person. Would there be anybody in this room that thinks that there should be anything superior to that she should gain being here? We would all be wrong to say anything. What could be better than you becoming better? You know what that means. If she's becoming a better person, she's remembering who she is and is getting closer to God. How could we say, no, what you really need, you're already getting it. Then when you told us that, we actually all got another wave of that. Like, wow, wait a minute. 6 weeks, I've been here a year and I'm not even that confident. I need her to be my teacher now, because what she said, I need to ramp it up and start being changed, transformed. Not by Michael, not by these people. God. We'll reflect it the best we can, but God. All right? Thank you. And yes, good. Thank you for being with us online. Aloha. Peace be with you all. We'll see you. Bye-bye.
Namaste.
Namaste. Now must go.